And that's one of the areas that I find I really need to zip it and get myself out of the way, because sometimes the younger me would have said, that's it.
That's all you want?
That's all you really? Okay, that it doesn't matter what I think.
Hello and welcome to the coaching studio. I'm Lyssa deHart, your host, and today it is my pleasure to introduce to you Tini Fadzillah. She is an MCC coach with the International Coaching Federation, and she is also a new field certified ontological coach. Tini is a founding partner in the Coach Partnership, a leading transformational learning organization that brings the Newfield suite of training to Asia. Tini is an accomplished executive coach and trainer based in Singapore. She has a wealth of experience working with clients throughout Asia. Tini also has a unique life experience. She grew up as the daughter of a diplomat, and we're going to get a little into that. Tini is also the host of Tini Talk through the Coach Partnership. It's a podcast, and you should check it out. You can see it on YouTube. She co-designed a Women in Leadership Presence program, and she's worked with thousands of people from diverse cultures, helping them achieve both personal and professional goals. Her passion lies in working with individuals to design a compelling future and translate their goals into reality. Thank you so much for joining me on the studio today, Tini. I've been looking forward to this conversation and having fun with you as we, get to know you a bit better.
It is awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Absolutely thrilled, even though it's about 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
You get the big gold star of Gus for being up the earliest.
No, it really is my pleasure. I do wake up like this timing anyway, so no problem at all. Here we are.
And here we are. So I mentioned that you're the child of a diplomat, and that you grew up in this probably pretty extraordinary life experience. And I'm wondering, I would love to hear a little bit about what that experience is like, but also how this really sort of informed the direction that you ended up taking in your life.
Oh my gosh. The whole podcast could be about this, to be honest, but I'll make it short because I know we have some great questions to go through. Yes, I grew up. My father was a diplomat, retired now. And the first thing I would say is I wouldn't change. You know, if you could go back in time and change anything in your life, there is not one thing I would change. I think the diversity. So the diversity of cultures, just having the gift of being able to live. I'm not even on the sidelines watching people. I'm in it. I live there. And in one hand, there's so much diversity, cultures, how people see the world, how they approach the world. On the other hand, people are people are people.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. And you asked the question, how does it inform me? It's one of the foundations from which I do my work, which is different. There's so much uniqueness in how you see the world, right? And I totally honor that. And then people are people. People wake up in the morning wanting to make the best choices and live their best life. Doesn't matter where you're from, right? So there's that beautiful paradox.
Yeah, and as you say that, I think I have continually believed, and I think this is what I'm hearing you say, is that I think that culture is rich and we should celebrate our cultures and the places that we come from. But I also think, to your point, we're unique individuals. And in fact, I've never met any person who's only come from one cultural identity. We've often had many and multiple, and they weave and weft together in extraordinarily unique ways. And so that sense of also there's the unique cultural identity of a person, however complex that is. And then there's the fact that human beings are human beings, and there's fundamental things that we share, that desire for a good life, that desire to have a better life for our children, all those different sorts of things, being overwhelmed, being inundated with too much social media lately. Like, there are so many things that happens to all of us at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How did you then, as you're coming out of this experience of growing up, and I'm assuming this is an assumption, so please correct me, that you're getting an opportunity to live in some pretty different places. And what do you decide to do as an adult, and what brings you into coaching?
So today my main I live in Singapore, so I don't actually live in other countries today. However, my work brings me to so many different parts of Asia. And what's really cool is some of these countries are countries that I used to live in growing up. So
Yeah.
that's really nice because it's kind of like I'm coming home and seeing my clients. Uh, how did I choose this? Is your question?
Yeah, just really, like, I mean, you grew up in all these interesting places, and then you decided to do something. And how did you get here from the something you chose?
Yeah, it's such an interesting, I suppose I'll call it an evolution. One of the things looking back is I don't know, maybe it's just living with my parents, living with my family. I just love people. I really love people. And there was just this appreciation of, as we spoke about earlier, different cultures, different all of it, right? And this work allowed me to be with people, not at a surface level, but with permission to really connect. And it's what they want, right? It's what connect at such a deep level to support people to unblock blocks, or help design the future. But it was so much substance. I Even with my job today, again, I go back to, if there was anything I could change in my life looking back, not one thing, not one thing. I absolutely love it. Love, love, love. I might love it too much.
What is
It's
Okay,
such a
that's almost a very interesting question in and of itself. How does one love their life too much?
I know, right? It's like, is this true? Am I going to pinch myself and go, oh my gosh? No, I
Yeah.
love it. Love, love, love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's sort of interesting. This actually kind of brings another question. I think, I mean, I'm in a position similar to you, different yet similar, in the sense that I have found the thing that I love doing so much. And I think there's a bit of and you may not have this, but the thing that I have found I'm really having to navigate is, because I love what I do so much, how do I stop it so that I can also love other things? Yeah, what just happened there?
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. It's yeah, that's exactly what I mean, which is there it I will wake up at 6:30 in the morning, no problem, no double question, to just have this kind of conversation with people. I have clients, even though I'm Asia based, I have clients in US and Europe once in a while, not always, but I if their only time is to wake up early in the morning, that's their only time, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's have these great conversations, because I'm as much a learner as much as my client is, and I get so much kick out of it. And there's also this thing called calibration, which
There
I
is a
always
thing called
need,
calibration.
that I need to, just too much, too little. Let's just calibrate so
Yeah.
that there's balance, and I have time to feed other parts of my spirit, right?
Yeah. And I think really for a lot of, and maybe this is just true of all business people, how we find that pathway towards what is balance. Like, balance might be 60-40 one day, 50-50 another. 10, 90 another day. Like, I mean, I think it's a moving target. How do you do that for yourself?
With a lot of support. I will not lie to you. I left to my own devices, I think I get myself into trouble. And then feedback is a good one. How do I do it? When
Mhm.
my daughter goes, Mom, hello, and I go, oh my gosh, like that. And and then I have conversations with my teammates in the office, and uh just to live my work, right? This, we're not the finished product by far. Even though I'm helping someone else work through their life, I'm trying to figure out too. I
Mhm.
have my coach. And so it's with the support. It takes a village. I truly believe that it takes a village, and my own growth continues with the support of lots of different, and I'm surrounded by coaches. That's my business, right? I have so many people I can call and have conversations with and explore and go, gosh, here's a latest challenge I have for myself. And
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a village. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy also. None of us do this by ourselves, right? It really requires, I don't know, it just really requires that we have a support network around us, and whether it's coaches or friends, partners, children, people to bring us back, people to remind us there's more to life than the passion we have for our work, right? That's
Absolutely.
wonderful, but there's also the other elements. Um, can you describe a moment where you felt truly aligned with this purpose of yours?
I I have those moments. I want to say quite often. And it's the moment it happens a lot in a training room. So I coach and I train. And in a training room, I need to introduce myself, right? And when I get to articulate my vision of why I'm here, and I'm surrounded by people who are hungry for change, right? And so one of the things that I guess you call it a mantra, maybe, is what drives me is working with people to design a life that when you're at the end of it, you look back and go, now that was awesome.
Yeah,
Not, I should have, I could have, I wish I did.
yeah,
And you either get there or you won't. I don't know. But we can aspire to that North Star, right?
yeah.
And so when I articulate that, and I'm in a room of people who are like, okay, let's do it. Oh, that's aligned.
Aligned with your purpose.
Totally. And it happens, I won't say a lot, but it happens a lot, right? So I get reminded, I remind myself, and it's a really nice kind of anchor to why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also that sense for, as I'm hearing you say that, I think it's something that I have too, where I think I don't wanna look back with regret,
Yeah,
right? I
exactly.
just don't wanna look back with regret. I would rather try something and have it not work than to never try and be sad because gosh, it was this thing I could have tried. I love that. And I love that this moment is something that is happening continually. That's beautiful. It's really beautiful. How has your coaching philosophy evolved through the years?
Um, one of the things, that's such a good question. Um, I'm not sure it's a philosophy, but I realize that, and it's a growing, it grows, and it becomes much more, what's the word, anchored, right?
Mhm.
That people know their lives way better than I do. I don't know your life.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
I
And
do.
and in the early days, I used to think, like when I first started out, I used to think, oh my God, there's a lot of pressure. I need to be able to tell people what to do. And no, I and that's in the whole MCC journey. It was that real reminder that my client they do know their life. My role is just to hold up the mirror or to ask the question and let them fill the space, right?
Yeah. Well, and you bring up something that's so fundamental to so many people moving towards their MCC is this unwinding of this idea, right? That we must solve for, we must fix you. I am right. And how did you like what were the sort of the struggle and then the breakthrough around that for you, if you can recall?
Yeah, gosh, what a long time ago.
If you
I
can,
knew
if
it
you can think back that far.
that far. Uh, um, Let me think. It started as a as words, as in people would say. So in the early days, I mean, I was 20 some when I first started coaching. And in those days, I mean, this is like 30 years ago. In those days, there was not many coach training, formal education. So we were figuring it out with the best intent to support people. And then experts, we were surrounding ourselves with experts who were like, just ask the question. And I'm like, no, really? But with evidence. It's like, okay, let's just try this out. And then suddenly it turned out, we're like, oh, okay, right? And I think that's the evolution of it, which is trust. I'm going to say trust the process. Really, standing here looking back, what I would say is just trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
It is way more sustainable, way more powerful to to be the spot for your client. Let
Yeah.
them let them figure it out.
Yeah, it really fits with that idea that the client is whole, capable, resourceful, creative, right? And that is a partnership, it's not a prescription, it's a partnership.
Absolutely. And it's just so powerful. And when the client lights up and goes, oh, wait a minute, here's what's coming to me.
Yeah,
In the symphony starts to play in the background.
I know. Oh, well, and it's so funny too. Like I'm sure you've had this conversation. You have a program that it trains coaches, and so I'm sure you hear this a lot. I have yet to meet a coach who doesn't just get thrilled when their client has that epiphany or that aha moment. I mean, it's just like
Or
magical. And yet, the fear of letting go of the expertise, which actually allows for that moment, I think is something I really want to amplify what you just said, because
yeah,
so connected.
totally, totally. Yeah, I underscore that. Yes, absolutely.
Hi, Lyssa here. I want to interrupt real quick and just say thank you for being a viewer on this channel. I very much appreciate you being here. And I'd also like to make an invitation to you. I love to meet people and have more one-to-one interactions with them. And to that end, I have a monthly coaching Q&A. We cover all kinds of topics, coaching related, and I would love to invite you, my treat, to that those monthly coaching sessions. You can find a link below, and I want to just say thank you, and I look forward to meeting you on a monthly Q&A soon. Cheers. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
It's like a let go. It's like the practice of just release that grip, right? Just let go
Mhm.
and just trust.
Yeah.
And I will also say, you as a coach are not always going to have that epiphany and the angels singing in the background and big aha moments. It's not always going to happen, and that's okay,
Right.
right? So
Well, it's not that we're driving towards that, but it happens more, I have discovered, at least for myself, when the client is trusted and they come
yes,
to it on their own through
totally.
through the inquiry, like, and I think there's something too, like where you take all of your experiences that you've had and all the training that you've had, and I'm curious what you think about this. So I'm just going to finish the sentence and you tell me how this lands on you. But that you learn to trust yourself, that everything that you know will inform your curiosity, and that will be in service of.
Yes. Yes. I totally believe that. I totally agree that. I totally agree with that. Trust is a huge thing in on both parties. So let's say I'm the coach. Me trusting my client is one, and then me trusting myself is another one, which a lot of people are sitting there, the students that we have coming through our school, and they're going, oh my God, it's quiet. Should I just fill the space? Should I say something? And they're not fully present, because their brain is working and they're not seeing what's happening in that silence or in that space. And it's an interesting evolution for them to go through, right? Yeah, so yes, I totally agree with that.
And it's so funny as you say that. I mean, I think we're taught to be quiet as children, mostly because we want to say something and all the adults around us are like, be quiet, we don't want to hear it, right? I wonder how that impacts our relationship to this idea of being silent in.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that until this moment. I'm curious what you think is your.
The silence piece, this is really, really, for me, really huge. So I was, who was I talking to? I was on an airplane many, many years ago, and I was just talking to my neighbor on the flight. And we were just chatting, and I at that time I was studying art. So I have a huge appreciation for art, right? And we were talking about art in Japanese and Korean, Chinese art, Northeast Asian art, right? And we talked about space. So for yourself and for those who are listening, the aesthetic of the art from this part of the world, the simple description would be you have a branch, maybe two peaches on the table, and the rest is all white. And we were having this really interesting discussion and landed with actually the white space is as significant as the objects in the painting, right? And I held on to that because that really resonated for me. And I use that metaphor in my coaching, which is what is the weight? What is the silence communicating or giving the opportunity to be communicated in a conversation? And so that's the visual, I guess, representation that I would offer. And it's there's a lot of power in silence. And some of it is discomfort. And that's okay.
And that's okay. I really love what you're saying, though, about one, the visual of just the simplicity of the art, like it's single branch, single bird, single peach, single whatever. And this white space as a visual of the silence and allowing it, like it has as much power because it outlines the things that are most essential within the image. And I love that perspective on silence, that it outlines the things that are maybe most essential, to include the discomfort, maybe. Like, what is that? I remember hearing a coach, you asked this question once, and it stuck with me forever. When I was working on my MCC, I was listening to a lot of coaches coach, and so as one does. And I heard this question. There was a question that was asked, and there was an epic degree of silence that followed the question. I mean, it was truly uncomfortable, a length of silence. Well, I say truly uncomfortable, but the reality was it was maybe like 30 to 45 seconds, truly uncomfortable. But it went on, and it felt like it was longer than that. And the coach asked, sorry about that, the balloons. What just happened in that silence? And I think, to your point, that silence, it illuminates something. If we can hold on to our own discomfort to allow what is there to emerge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a new found relationship, not that new anymore, but silence was in itself a very powerful, I won't even call it a tool, a very powerful characteristic of engagement.
Yeah.
Right?
I
It's
like that.
really, yeah.
Characteristic of engagement. I was thinking presence as you were talking, but I like the characteristic of engagement. I do.
We're still engaging.
Yeah. Yes, we are, in that holding of the space. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're working on a book, aren't you?
I am working on a chapter of a collective book. I won't say too much about it because it's still in the makings of it, but it's going to be really interesting. It's a lot of our peers in the organization, and each of us are having a topic, and I'm doing relationship.
Could you talk more about your interest and focus on relationship?
I think, yeah, I mean, that's my heartbeat, right? I love, as I said, I love people, but I just find there's so much richness in connecting and relating. I think it's the foundation of the work that we do, and of being human, right? Another topic that I'm currently really interested in is health span, right? So not necessarily lifespan as in number of years, but just the healthiness. So it's one of the elements that just reinforces my love is community. So one of the ingredients for a healthy life is building community and connections. And so I just feel that topic, to spotlight that topic for me, is just really, really critical for people to be effective, to be fulfilled in life. So yes, that's my topic.
Yeah. And what is it that you think people could learn about how to enrich these relationships with themselves and with others?
Well, before the how to, which I do include, it's also the what's the point. So let's take relationship as the
I like
nucleus,
that.
right?
Yeah.
What's the point? So why should I'm liking my cave. What's the problem here? So if you think about the nucleus, if it's a relationship, that's where lots of branches branch out. Like the capacity, which I notice with a lot of my executives, the capacity to make requests, the capacity to even want to make a request. I mean, the number of people who feel that I work with whose breakdown, the source of their breakdown is that they want to do everything themselves and not make any request to anyone else around them. That's a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
Right?
There's well, going back to that trust, right? Like, if I'm,
Trust. Yes.
yeah, how do you see that connection with the trust when somebody's like, I can't let go, I can't let go, whether it is of the conversation or of the action?
Exactly. So you have that nucleus. Trust is a branch. Making requests is a branch. Making offers. What's the offer I have to you in support of your success, right? Fulfillment, connection. What's possible in a community that's not possible when I live solitary, and I'm exaggerating, solitary in a cave, but what is the impact on a fulfilled life? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're up to, right? Let's create a life that's fulfilling for you. What does that look like? And relationships to me is one of the fundamental ingredients, not the only one, but I would say one of the fundamental ones.
The reality is, and the reality is Lyssa sees it. Let me just reframe that. The reality, as I see it, is none of us got here by ourselves. I mean, we had somebody who had to birth us. We don't grow on, even if we grew off of a tree, the reality is a tree made us at that point. So we come here through relationship of some sort. We show up here as a result of a relationship, good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. It happened, and we exist as a result of an equation or a moment in time. And every single thing we do happens within the context of relationships. So for them to be fundamental, I 100% agree. And so how do you, in supporting people to have this exploration, because none of us live on an island. And in fact, regardless of, Castaway, the movie, right? Like you're living on a deserted island, eating coconuts and raw crab, I guess. I mean, the reality is we live in community regardless of anything, because none of us can do everything by ourselves.
Right. That's right. So the execution, definitely I can't do by myself, right? But also just the level of joy and the possibility of joy and fulfillment when I'm engaged, and the list is much longer than that, and others, when I'm engaged with other people. And here's the interesting thing about relationships is we're talking about my relationship to something external, someone external.
Right.
But it could also be relationship with a circumstance. It could also be relationship with myself, which is one of the blocks for many people on could I, what if they figure it out? What if they realize that actually I can't do this, right?
I don't know yet what I'm talking about.
Or I don't know what I'm talking about. Exactly. And the list goes on. And there's so much complexity. For starters, it's so juicy, but it's also, relationship is so layered with so many different elements that to be able to unpack that and start to unblock maybe some of the blocks or reframe some of the qualities that I've been living my life from, and then see what happens if I start to reframe certain contextual shifts that I can make.
Are there, as you think about this, are there any developmental stages that you see people navigate through on their way towards, I mean, I believe, again, world according to Lyssa, that self-trust and trust in ourselves and that relationship with ourselves. I've always been a big believer that my first breath happened with this person that I am, not who I mean, who I was. And my last breath is going to be with this person and this experience too. This is my primary relationship, is right here. So I wonder, like, for you, are there any like developmental steps or things that are needed in order to be able to build that healthy relationship so that all of those different parts from that nucleus can go out with confidence, ease, purpose? I mean, what do you see as part of that journey?
I I think I wouldn't speak about it in stages, because I think there's nothing linear about being human.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, wouldn't that be nice? I think the willingness and the courage to look. And I'm just at the end of a program, for example, when I'm working with my clients in a program, and then they get coaching, and then they complete the program, they come back all together, to be able to see their shift from day one to day 60 is there's a lot of courage, the willingness to pause, get off, my metaphor is get off that treadmill of life and just look at myself and slow the tape down, right? Another metaphor, slow the tape down and start to see, what am I not seeing when I'm sprinting through life? And I think if there was any ingredient, it would be just that courage and willingness to slow things down and see and look and lean in to some of the areas that are maybe uncomfortable, and exploring, the willingness to explore, if it matters, explore that part and not run away from discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah. I think opening that window of tolerance to the discomfort so that we can actually truly explore. I think it's difficult to, and this just, I don't know why I'm so full of opinions today, but here we go again. I don't know. It's because it's the evening for me and the morning for you. I think there's a sense that it is really difficult to build honest relationships with others until we have the courage to build that one with ourselves. I see you nodding your head. What's showing up is for you.
I think it's a chicken and a duck. Chicken and a duck? No, chicken and an egg.
That's
You
because
reminded me it was 6:30. So I'm like, okay, no, chicken and egg, which comes first? Is it me trusting myself first? Certainly both are important ingredients. And what I notice is for some of my clients, when they start to dip their toe in trusting others and they go, okay, how can I take that and bring it to myself, or vice versa? And this is where is the word symbiotic. It's where we grow off of each other, right? It's there's nothing linear. It's complex, it's trusting, it's I like to say it's being grateful to just take a look at the world that I live in through my eyes, through my perspective, and starting to challenge some of the limitations I've placed on this world and start to challenge myself on how I engage with it in the parts that matter. It's not like you need to be able to do everything all the time. No, let's design the life that you are compelled by.
Yeah, the life that you are compelled by. I was talking in another podcast about the need for purpose, and without it, and it's more than a goal, right? It's that sense of like, what is the meaning? And I loved how you said it in the way that I was reading it, where you are helping individuals to design a compelling future and translate that into reality. I I I love that idea, that this compelling future, this purpose that underlies everything else will come from the clarity of that, I think. Um, how do you help somebody even formulate this compelling vision?
Um, I as you were talking just now, I'm just recollecting this recent frame of how I'm approaching this before I answer your question. Is so about 2 months ago, my mom passed away. And so that was a huge reminder. My best friend passed about 5 years ago, and it's just a reminder about life, right? And so the framing that I have now, which is resonating for me now in this phase of my life, is there are only two guarantees, right? There's a guarantee you're born, there's a guarantee you're going to go bye-bye, right? And so the work that we do is designing everything in the middle. That's the power we have.
Mm-hmm.
The game starts, the game ends. What happens in the middle is blank slate, right?
Yeah.
And I know I'm saying it so much easier than it really is, as in some people are like, no, it's not that easy, and some people are like, yeah, it is just a blank slate. Anyway, and so to your question about how do I design, how does the client want to design? It's the words design, a purpose, is the significance that they want to put to it. And that's one of the areas that I find I really need to zip it and get myself out of the way, because sometimes the younger me would have said, that's it.
That's all you want.
That's all you want, really? Okay, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what they think. And it could be as tangible, like I want to get a promotion, or I want to retire by this date, or I want to get a promotion, or I want to design a life that invites more peace. Right? All of it is legitimate. And so to answer your question, again, it's listening and evoking, and asking the questions that have them challenge themselves as to why does this matter to you? What's the significance you're placing on this? What's the meaning? What's the meaning that it has for you?
Yeah. Which is, of course, that unique sense of self, right?
Yes. Yes. And the get out of the way, coach.
Yeah.
Let
Hold the space and
hold the space.
to your point. So
Yeah.
as you look at coaching today, I think, and you were talking about, early in coaching, there wasn't as much of of like what coaching is, right? Like it was emerging.
Yeah.
What do you see as emerging now in the coaching industry, and what coaches might want to keep their eyes on or their attention to?
Yeah, the one that's really interesting to me, and I have no idea how this is going to unfold, but it's coming, or it's here, maybe even, is AI. How is that? And it's not just the coaching industry, but AI is here. I think it's here to stay.
Oh,
Plus,
absolutely.
right?
It's not going away at this point.
It's not going away. It's just going to get better. It's going to be improved. And that's an interesting next step in the domain of coaching and training. I have no idea how that's going to look. I've heard of coaches who are leveraging it, and I've heard of coaches who are resisting it. We work with the medical field, doctors, and what a healthy, they actually shared. They said, we resisted it for a long time, and then now we're embracing it and sending our teams to experts to see how we can incorporate it into our business, our industry.
Well,
And
yeah, one person can't know everything. So, especially with like medicine, like here you've got this list of symptoms, and I may not know all the potential, like the things that might indicate. Whereas AI is just like, oh, these are the
yeah,
5 things that I would look at first, and just sort of,
exactly.
right?
And so it's, I think it's as much the questioning of identity for me as a coach. With AI coming in, let's see what AI does, right? But that's looking over there. What's the possibility for me as a coach, for us as an industry, and our identity and the significance we can bring? So it's a continued exploration, but I think that's one of the big ones.
Yeah. I wonder, the thought that I have had is, and I don't know that this is the direction you're thinking yourself, so if it isn't, that's like cool. But one of the thoughts that I've been having around AI is that it's really going to require coaches to be in partnership in deeper, more transformational ways, because the transactional coaching is going to be covered just like basic accounting and basic legal advice is going to be covered. You have to be able to courageously step into new ways of being in partnership with people. But that's sort of the way I'm wondering that it'll
What
happen.
I'm thinking. Yeah. I'm thinking emotions. Is AI going to be able to capture nuances with a client? I'm guessing they'll be able to capture who's they? They, Mr. and Mrs.
Those,
AI.
those AI developers.
Right? Are they going to be able to capture some of the obvious emotions? I'm going to think yes. But what are the nuances? What are as you say, some of the deeper pieces?
Mhm.
And it that has the good news is it'll have me be on my toes. I can't be complacent, right? How do I challenge myself uh, in view of what's coming or even here already?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
interesting.
it is, it's fascinating. And
Mhm.
something you just said too, like keeping me on my toes and the nuances of how we listen to people and how, but it goes back to the idea of relationship. I may love Chat GPT, like chat, it's great, right? On the other hand, I want to spend time with another human being. I want to have an interaction with another human being, not
That's right.
just ChatGPT or whatever the name of the coaching AI ends up being.
Right.
But I think there's that element also of like how we build relationships that is a piece of it as well.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's great. That's a great piece to always remember. With AI, what does a human being bring that a machine doesn't, right? And that's and what's the safety? This is what's occurring to me. What's the safety of dealing with a machine? And
Mhm.
that and the safety or the lack of safety when I have to deal with another human being. It makes me laugh because there's a huge part of our clientele who are technical people. So,
Mhm.
and what happens is they get promoted to become managers. They're really good at their technical job, and suddenly they get promoted to manage these things called human beings. And the funniest statement,
Have emotions and bad days and good
yeah.
days and
Well, then they no, the best part is they talk back. Yeah, they do.
they're
Yeah,
like
the
children.
human. So the client, this is such a common thing for my technical guys. They come back, they go, so much easier just dealing with machines. You just press buttons and it does what you want it to do. And now these things called human beings actually talk back. Yes, they do.
Yeah. And you can't just blow them out of the water,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Because you're going to have to
Unless
work them.
exactly. So it's quite cute. It's really cute and it's fun to unpack. But it does come with this whole thing called relationship.
Yeah, relationships are just, I mean, and I think you can have a relationship with your technology. I think most of us do. I don't know about you, but most of the people that I know walk around with something that it used to take up 3 buildings, 40 years ago, now in our back pocket because we live in that world now where technology is such a part of it. So we have clearly relationships with it, and we can take it on a walk with us, and we can capture pictures and have memorable moments with our technology, but it is not the same thing is having an intellectual conversation with another human being for your benefit,
That's
to
right.
explore, to explore and have empathy. So like machines are good at a lot of things, and they may even get really good at mimicking empathy. But how can a thing that has never had an experience truly empathize with another person's experience? And I think there's going to be those elements of our humanness that are going to be important, that we are able to bring those into how we are being and our presence with the people that we work with.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that it is bringing for sure already is our capacity to innovate, our capacity to what we call in our office, shake things up. Let's shake things up. Let's shake the bag here. And so as an industry, or even as a our planet, AI is shaking things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And not
mm,
just in our industry, like you said,
yeah,
medical, legal, marketing. I mean, pretty much name an
everything
industry.
actually.
Just name
Yeah.
an industry. And I mean, unless the industry is gardening, where you're actually like But even there, like how you figure out yields, how you figure out the right time based on these
Right.
weird weather patterns. When are you planting? Where are you planting? Where do things need to be grown better because things on the planet are changing? Like, I mean, I think technology is just going to be making all sorts of different predictions and helping us to navigate what we have going on the planet. Fascinating stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think it's
really.
a total shakeup for the world on many levels.
Yeah.
So if a coach was coming to you and they were like, Teeny, one piece of wisdom that you would share with me as I'm becoming a coach and going to go off and become a coach in the world, do you have a piece of advice or wisdom that you might share with a prospective coach?
Let me just say this, and it's going to sound really simple, which is trust.
Mhm.
And it's so layered. So trust the client. They'll figure it out. Trust yourself, which includes you can do this, and also trust in yourself, trusting your gut, your intuition. If something doesn't sound right, just call it. Here's my observation, right? So trust the process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The theme then of our conversation has been so much around trust, relationships, and courage.
Yeah. I love it.
I do too. So
Mhm.
I've been asking this final question. If there is a person, a philosophy, maybe a book that has really profoundly impacted you as a person, but also as a professional, who who is out there in the world that has really impacted the way that you are in the world?
Um, I would say it's not some celebrity, or for me, I think it's the people closer to home. I think my parents, uh, because of the environment that I got to grow, it influenced me tremendously. It's the foundation that I stand on. At the end of the day, people are people. I get to work with CEOs, C-suites. I remember a moment when I was really young, and my dad couldn't. There was a event at the house, and my dad couldn't make it. It was his event, but anyway, and my mom hosted it. And so she asked, would you be willing to be the MC in our living room? And I'm like, sure. I was really young. And the president, I think we were in Fiji, and the president um, came, and he was going to be the VIP. And I'm like, oh my God. He went, it's fine. He's only a human being. And that really stayed with me. So when I'm about to meet with, the super CEO of an organization whose title could be really intimidating and years of experience, I remember he's just a human being, or she's just a human being. And that's one of the fundamentals. The book by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning.
Absolutely. It's all attitude. As easy, and his example, for those who may not have read it, is the book is around his life, his moment in a concentration camp. And so it's all about attitude, and the attitude and the perspective that we bring to moments in our life really
And horrendous moments as well,
horrendous.
right?
Absolutely.
It isn't that it's all sunshine and roses, but that
Far
we have
from
a
it.
choice even in the worst of situations.
Yes. And of course, I have a coach, and she's been my coach for 30 years. 30 years, gosh.
Saying that
Kelly,
out loud sometimes is weird.
yeah, it's like, okay. So Kelly Poulos, she's been a spot, just in terms of the coaching and the development and the feedback and the blind spots, right? And so, and of course, and my colleagues, and just being surrounded by coaches who are up to the same thing, which leads to just one purpose, which is to have people succeed, to have people win. So many different modalities, so many different ways, but it all comes down to the same thing, right? To create a life worth, what's the game worth playing here?
Yeah. Yeah. When I wrote story jacking, I really like the idea of craft a story worth living.
Yes. Because when game is over, game's over.
Yeah, that's so funny. I used to, when I worked for the military, I used to tell the guys and gals in my anger management, look, we know you're going to be born. We know this is going to end, but nobody has stamped an expiration date on your butt yet. So you don't know when. So what are you going to do in the space between? And I
Exactly.
think that's what you're really talking, right?
Absolutely.
And that kind of the Wayne Dyer of the gap, right? What will you do in the
Yes.
gap?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it is the story then of your life, what you choose and how you choose to respond to the things that happen to you, which is to
Yeah.
take nothing away from the fact that bad things really do happen to good people for through no fault of their own. And and they still have a choice regardless about
Yeah.
how they're going to move forward.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Oh, it was my
being
pleasure.
in the studio here with me today. This was just such a delight.
I love it. I loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that was easy. And that was just so much fun. And I enjoyed just getting an opportunity prior to even recording, laughing with you so hard. So I will forever in my mind have that moment.
That was funny.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.